Welcome to the Mojo Market Report. Here's your hosts, Dave Sturchio and Chris Gueci.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode and edition of the Mojo Market Report, coming to you live from Chop Studios here on a Monday morning. It is Monday, April the 17th, 2023. And of course, as always, Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci over there at the other side of the room for another loaded episode. Big weekend just passed. Obviously, the NBA playoffs, we'll get into all that. Some NFL juicy nuggets coming out of nowhere as we are now less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, which, again, you're going to get Mock Draft City coming up on this show in particular, and obviously all over the place. Every website that you go to, you'll find mock drafts out the wazoo. So, anyway, over the weekend, did you by any chance get to see the PGA final yesterday? I always ask him questions I know the answer to. Great performance out of Jordan Spieth, just not enough. So if you're a golf guy, get out there. And I was told by my stepdad that Mojo should add NASCAR. And I thought he texted the wrong person. Like, I don't ever text him. And he texted me, he's like, Chase Elliott's back on Sunday. And I was like, oh, yeah? You got the wrong guy. I don't know. I don't know who you're talking to. But according to there is a need and a want for Mojo to add NASCAR. Would you be interested? Would you be interested? No.
Would I be interested for the sake of the business? Of course, I'd be interested, but I'm not going to invest.
Not
in
a NASCAR guy?
No.
I used to go to the dirt tracks a long time ago. That was fun. Like the funny cars. It's
like when you're a kid.
Yeah,
but
I was like 15.
Not here to knock NASCAR. Obviously, there's
one of the most popular sports in the
fan
world.
Bases. I mean, no, it's not.
It is.
The world?
I mean, not the world. Maybe the United States.
Maybe in
the South.
It's like, what are we talking about? There's some NASCAR fans around here for sure. But
oh, yeah.
You could say that the Formula 500, that is some intense stuff.
See, I can't watch that. Like, I don't know. I feel like those cars are not even like real to me.
Yeah, but they're actually driving through like the streets. It's a much different thing that they do in Europe. It's
I'm thinking
those dudes are world famous. Those guys are hitting
wasn't there a Netflix documentary on some of that called like Formula One or something? Yeah, absolutely it was.
There was.
Anyway, so that
some of the biggest stars in the world.
Ever.
Anyway,
NBA, ladies and gentlemen. Vroom, vroom. Let's kick off the NBA coverage with Saturday night's action. Actually, Friday night, technically, because we had to have two more winners enter the tournament. And what we saw was Karl-Anthony Towns and co. The Minnesota Timberwolves get into the playoffs. We'll get into their disaster of a game one in just a little bit. But, of course, the Miami Heat, not only did they beat Chicago, but boy, oh boy, they have themselves a weekend as well. We'll start in Brooklyn, though, because that was the first game on the docket on Saturday. The Brooklyn Nets get absolutely throttled by the 76ers. Great game out of everybody that needed to have the great game. The Embiids and the Hardens of the world, they led the way. Just based off watching one game. I know it's only one game, and you got to win four, and, it is what it is. But did the Nets have a prayer? They
didn't have a prayer going into the game. If they would have won the game by 25, they'd still have no prayer in this series. That would have been an anomaly, an outlier. Whatever you want to say about it, the series is over. I hate to say it, Brooklyn.
Like fans. I said, Bridges has been a fantastic addition for the Brooklyn Nets throughout the course of the year when when that acquisition was made. But again, he's had himself plenty of good days. But a guy like that in a star-driven league, when you got to go, face-to-face with guys like Joel Embiid and James Harden, it's a recipe for disaster. And the Brooklyn Nets are now down 1-0. So outside of that came the Boston Celtics, who went out there, took care of business against the Hawks. Again, the Hawks were that last 7 seed to get in, and they won their play-in game. They get out there, do their thing. Murray has himself a great game. Boston, again, they're a powerhouse in the East. You're looking at them across the way. You're looking at a team like the 76ers that we just talked about. Boston was hovering in that area as far as being one of the better teams in the East. Again, one game, small sample size. Do I think Atlanta could pick one off? I do. But overall, just a great game by the Celtics in game one.
Yeah, the Celtics are the real deal. The Sixers are the real deal. Now we can move on to the other Eastern Conference game, which we talked a little bit about.
You want to talk about it? Let's talk about it.
No,
I'm not talking about that. I don't want to talk about them.
Crap about the Knicks.
Let's talk about the New York basketball Knicks. Look, I said they go out there and they win this series. Now, look, one game. Can't get nuts about it, but they played a very well-rounded, sound basketball game, and you didn't give them much of a chance. The only chance you did give them is if Randle was in the game, and it was announced about 2 hours prior to tip-off that Randle was going to give it a go. All right, I guess I'm more of an old school basketball fan where I'm more of a, control the tempo, don't be too reckless, set up the good shot, put the bucket in, right? When Randle has the ball in his hands, bro, it's very it's troubling. He's very just reckless with it. I don't know. I feel like you can't, first of all, never again should he bring the ball up. He just seems like not that guy.
Yeah, he's a power forward.
Right.
I mean, even power forward. You say power, I say power forward. I don't even think they exist anymore.
Nah,
it's just like a 4.
It's a 4, right?
Yeah.
But again, Brunson, great game. The minutes he's put in, this guy has been an absolute godsend to the New York Knicks. We have never had this kind of point guard play, and I can't tell you, I don't know if it's even the 94 Knicks, when you look way back to their most successful team that they've had since the 70s, you look back at that team, and it's like guys just role play, Hubert Davis and John Starks, and
Charlie Ward.
Well, that was even later. But I'm looking at those teams, I'm like, well, yeah, point guard play was good, but it's nothing like we've been seeing out of Brunson. Brunson has absolutely delivered on everything that we've needed. There was one tweet that I read last night. I found it kind of funny because, look, we all know Luka to be one of the better players in the NBA, but do you think there's any smidge of a possible Luka held a guy like Brunson back in Dallas because of the star power, because of the demand for the ball at all times? Like, Brunson is now showing his skill set because he's not required to dish it off to Luka.
I wouldn't say that because Luka also had a ton of assists. He's a point guard himself. He's a bigger point guard, but he's a point guard himself. For that reason,
I can't consider him a point guard.
I mean,
I know he is, but it's like, good Lord.
It's like he definitely is.
230-pound point guard.
But it might not have been Luka holding him back so much as that Luka is the same position as him, and he's clearly a better player. So
they're on the court at the same time.
Of course, but at the same time, if they're the same position, yeah, the answer would be Luka's holding him back, but not because Luka isn't a good fit to work with or play. He's not holding Kyrie back. They're not winning games, but he wasn't holding Kyrie back statistically. And Brunson did a lot of work in the playoffs, so when it came time to rise to the occasion, he did just that.
Yes, he did.
So there's a case to be made for it, but there's also a case to be made for the fact that sometimes guys just come into their own, and he became who he is now because of all the years that he's put in. I wouldn't say that he's being held back.
Jalen Brunson him.
But I'll tell you what, these guys, after a little bit, you get anointed, and after your first contract runs out, and then you're working on your second one or whatever it might be, wherever Luke is at this stage of his career, wherever Ja Morant's at this stage of his career, if you don't start turning the corner, you start to get critiqued. And are you worth playing with? Is he, all these things start to come out. Now there's some data. There's some early playoff exits. There's things like that where the fans point fingers. It's not easy in the NBA. NBA Twitter is insanity.
It is really, NBA Twitter, NBA Instagram, NBA YouTube, NBA everything. It is just, again, for whatever reason, and this is something we've discussed way back when. I don't remember when the conversation was happening, but the NFL is obviously the juggernaut that is. The NFL owns days of the week. You're just always talking NFL. But I think the most traction on social media is the NBA. It's just the most judgmental group of people you've ever seen in your life.
And it's also because it's a star-driven league more so than anything. So a lot of people, they just cling on to players more so than teams. So you could have allegiances and then well, I mean,
it's not a fault.
I feel like I'm in the majority in terms of how most basketball fans watch it nowadays. Even people that have a favorite team, they're watching the NBA. If you're an NBA fan,
I guess for me, in this show in particular, I've watched more NBA outside the Knicks than I've ever watched in since the early 90s. So
it's tough. It's tough to watch
games
1 through 40 for me on a Tuesday night, unless I'm gambling, which,
if you're on the Mojo Market, you can do that.
We're all playing around here or there. But just now basketball is lit.
Yes, it's on fire right now. And we ended Saturday night with a upset special, not particularly because Sacramento was in fact favored in this game. 126-123. Curry drops 30, not enough. De'Aaron Fox 38 points. My man balled out. The Kings. I said this about the West. I said the bottom teams could shock the top teams, and the Kings. I don't want to say they don't belong. It just didn't. When you look at a bracket and you see the Sacramento Kings sitting there, I was with my buddy the other night watching the Knicks, and then when the Knicks game was over, we started to watch the beginning of the Kings game. And I said, man, you look at this Kings, like just the team itself, and you think of guys like Mitch Richmond and Bibby and guys that like
Weber, Vlade Gotti.
Bro, they used
Brad
to
Miller,
be a destination,
Love that
right?
team.
Yeah, dude. So I think what's this guy? Mitch Richmond was on the cover of like NBA Live '97.
Yeah.
So like, you know
Mitch
what I mean?
Richmond,
Like,
I don't know that he was on the same team as like the Webers, but that was still the Kings were such a good fun.
a lot of fun to watch. But now you're looking at it like a couple years back, they're like, are Sacramento going to make it like as a franchise? We don't know. And now they're out there winning game one and taking this one in a big, big way. I mean, I know it's only a 3-point win, obviously, and it was just down to the wire. But what I will say is that's a statement win. It shows that you can run with the guys like the Currys of the world and the Golden State Warriors who are seasoned in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I
you
feel
know what
like
I mean?
the Kings were confident going into this one. They knew they could, but now the rest of the world sees that they're a threat. I did pick the Kings, and I think this series will go 7 games.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right, so the Los Angeles Lakers, who I said, has a really, really good chance to make some noise, even at the 7th seed, they did just that. 128-112, big victory over Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Ja Morant's banged up. X-rays are negative. It looks like he'll probably be okay for the rest of the go. And I didn't even mention this. That's because we didn't talk about the Bucks yet. I was looking at the East and the West and who got injured. But a lot of injuries yesterday, actually, which wasn't very a good sign for any of these playoff teams. But Ja Morant looks to be okay.
Great sign for the other ones, though.
What? Yeah. No, that's the thing, dude. When you look at this,
I wouldn't say Ja Morant's okay. The thing that I read was that he was in such pain that he couldn't even.
Well, all I'm saying is
took his socks out of his locker, and they were like, like you fold your socks up. He couldn't undo it after the game. So if he's not able
X-rays are negative,
if
but
he's not able to undo his
that
socks,
doesn't mean tendons aren't ripped around. So I guess we'll find out about that. But they had themselves a decent performance. Ja Morant goes for 18, again, banged up on this one. And then you're looking across the way, and Austin Reaves, man, like what a game out of him. He was. You talk about a cheerleader on the court. He was very pumped up for this game, and you got to give it up for the Los Angeles Lakers.
LeBron knew that he was going to be a really good player the first time he ever saw him practice.
Yeah, I mean, that's according to LeBron James.
You know the memes?
Yes. LeBron went for 21 points, and, of course, like I said, the Lakers get that one. Upset special right here. Okay, we talked about the Heat getting a win on Friday night just to get into the postseason as the 8th seed. They got to go against the juggernaut known as the Milwaukee Bucks. What do? They steal game one. That's what you got to do in the NBA, in the postseason, in any sport when there's a series. If you take that one game and you steal that one on the road, it's a whole different ball game, man. And they do that handedly. 130-117 in this game. Giannis goes down with a back injury. So now we have to monitor that. You have to figure out what's his availability for game 2. Because I tell you right now, man, if you let a guy like Jimmy Butler do what he did yesterday and take over games, he could take this entire series by storm, and you're going to just the Bucks, who cruised through the Eastern Conference the entire season, all of a sudden sees themselves, okay, now we got to win 4 out of 6. That's
I still feel like the
significant.
Bucks are going to do it, but it is a tough start if Giannis is actually really nicked up. But Tyler Herro also broke his hand, so he's out for the remainder. I wouldn't say the remainder of the postseason unless they make it to the finals.
Think about that. You broke your hand. You're a basketball player, and there might be a shot you're back. It's like that's crazy recovery to me. It's so fast.
If you have a small break or a fracture in your hand and it takes 4 weeks and you're there in 5, still alive, then you could start kicking around the idea of maybe
NBA Finals doesn't end until mid-June.
I think it's I think it's the end of August or something.
Yeah, right. It seems like that. And then they go right back in the training camp, right back on the court. But yeah, so the Heat, again, big upset win over the Bucks. That's huge for them. The interesting one yesterday was obviously the Suns, who have been playing very, very well since the acquisition of Kevin Durant. Then he went down, right? But then he gets back, and it's like, oh, here we go again. We're back on this. Everybody's on the Suns. 115-110. The Clippers steal game 1 in Phoenix. Now, look, this was incredible because when you're looking at a guy like Russ Westbrook and the story of this dude's career, the story has been that he was here, and then the fall from grace, and then everything, just the floor falls out. Nobody likes Russ anymore. Trade him 17 times, all this. He finds himself a role here. He doesn't have that great of a game yesterday, right? He does not have that great of a game. The guy shoots 3 for 19 from the court. Not your ideal situation for a playoff game, but then makes the biggest play of the playoffs, or biggest play of the game at least. his rejection, and not only that, rejection, and then in the air, spikes it off of Butler, and all of a sudden, the game's over, essentially, right? I mean, it's just, I can't say enough about Russ. You got to love it. You love to see something like this.
Russ is one of my favorite players in the league. Vintage Russ going 3 for 19, still chucking them up after missing 15 shots. You have a lot of nerve shooting 4 more times, Russ.
Right,
but
seriously.
Yeah, he puts effort in on both sides, and he did his part, I guess you could say, because they got the dub, and that was the play of the first round so far, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge play.
The biggest blowout of them all, again, the Timberwolves feeling their high, feeling themselves. They get into Denver. They think, okay, we got this, and they lost by 29 points. They got smoked by the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets had himself a game. Joker, ready for this? Not a big on the points, but like it's almost guaranteed. It's like he had 13, 14. Like the dude is just everywhere. That's why he's an MVP candidate. Jamal Murray goes for 20, and Denver Nuggets take care of business. So obviously this week, the schedule is as followed. I believe the game 2s aren't until, I'm wrong. There's game 2s tonight. Brooklyn and Philadelphia, Golden State and Sacramento. Game 2s are going down tonight. We'll talk about them tomorrow. And, of course, a bunch more game 2s on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is how they spread the entire week out. It's insane. But there are games to be had tonight. And so if you're on the Mojo Market and you're on the app, get yourself on the app. Check out the liquid props later on in the afternoon. They have them all laid out for you. Who you want, who you like. I mean, to me, when you look at that that Brooklyn-Philadelphia series, whatever the number is set for Embiid, just go over. Just go over that number. You'll make some money there because it's just ridiculous. They did run a special over the weekend. They brought Brunson's point line down to 15 points. And I know he didn't have he didn't go for 40 or anything like that, but you made money every time you made a bucket at the end of the day. So you were feeling that one. So that is the NBA slot and slate going down tonight. Now, let's see here. We got the NFL. There is some news to go over before we get out of here because there is stuff happening right before the draft. Draft season is upon us. It's in less than 2 weeks. We'll start diving deeper into that as the week goes on. But there is some news about some running backs, once again, that might be on the chopping block, literally. One being Dalvin Cook. Now, we talked about it. We said it and pretty much guaranteed it on the show that he was going to get traded. Dalvin Cook was going to be traded before the season started. Now, what it seems to me, and you'll probably shed some light on this, seems to me that nobody wants to ante up. So if that's the case, what do? Got to cut him.
When you have running backs that are available, there's some good ones out there still. And I don't know how great, but there's some definitely serviceable running backs out there. The Kareem Hunts, I mean, you could even say Zeke. There's some guys out there that
say Zeke. Come on.
I mean...
Come on, man.
I mean,
put some respect on that man's name.
But when we're talking about the guys that are potentially about to hit the market, because there is no trade suitors for the Dalvin Cooks, there's no trade suitors for the Derrick Henrys of the world. I don't think he's a cut candidate, but there's no trade suitors for the Austin Eckler's of the world. And these guys were given permission outside of Derrick Henry to seek trade partners. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Dalvin Cook was, but I remember last week when the Vikings brought in Dalvin Cook for an evaluation, I said, you know what this is about? They're literally just checking him out to see if they're able to move him. And teams are probably asking about his shoulder, and they're like, well, we don't really know. He hasn't been here, so we got to check him out. They bring him in to check him out. All systems are go. They release this good report, and they probably called teams again, and they were like, yeah, we still don't care. You're going to have to cut him because we know he's for free, basically.
Yeah.
That
rough,
happens.
Man.
I said this last week when the Vikings are in peril with the salary cap situation. I said, the NFC North is up in the air. The Lions, all right, I need to see 2 years in a row of that. Their defense still stinks. The Vikings' defense stinks, and they're losing offensive pieces. They lost Thielen. They're going to lose Dalvin Cook, it seems.
What do you think since they've been so cheap and hamstrung by a salary cap, is there any threat that a Justin Jefferson doesn't stay there because of the fact that they got no money?
This is what we're talking about. You're not giving Dalvin Cook a penny. Not a penny. He's not getting another dollar from the Vikings. And they're going to have to alleviate whatever they can to sign Justin Jefferson. There's also talks that there could be a draft day trade with Kirk Cousins, or a draft day trade to potentially get his replacement. Yeah. But now it's like, I don't buy that for a split second because Kirk Cousins' contract and the Vikings are almost in win now mode, even though they're not really.
When you look at the division, you have to be. You have to be because you were a damn near you were the damn near the 1 seed last year. Almost,
and things fell off, obviously. They had a lot of those wins where it's like they didn't belong. Like they were fool's gold.
I remember biggest comeback in NFL history.
The Giants and the Vikings all year. The Vikings, it's a testament to win a lot of the close games. But when you look at things as a whole and you start to look at the metrics, the Vikings didn't stack up against a lot of the postseason teams last year. Getting a little bit worse, not to talk about the Vikings, this is really just a Dalvin Cook scenario. I still think, even though with the addition of Damian Harris and them having James Cook, I still think he ends up in Buffalo if he has his choice. If no team trades for him, that's probably going to be where he heads. And I know it doesn't make sense.
It's just crazy to even think about a world that we live in that Dalvin Cook is on the market. You know what I mean? Like, just oh, by the way, I don't have a team.
I could see Dalvin Cook going to either the Bills.
I mean, you read an article before. They got the Cowboys. I could see him
going to the Cowboys. I could see him going to the Eagles. I could see him going to, even a team like maybe the Saints or something like that. I know Kamara's there still, but with that
that's
kind
looming.
Of thing, you just don't know.
Suspension's looming.
Curious to see how the Dalvin Cook situation plays out, and more so, I'm interested in the Austin Eckler thing because I think at this point in their careers, I think Eckler holds a little bit more value because he could do a little bit more.
Oh yeah, he's a Swiss Army knife, dude,
and he's a touchdown machine. Yep. So he's not really the short yardage back until you get to the goal line, and then he finds his way.
Joe Mixon,
Joe Mixon, I think
potentially on the block too, or at least on the outs.
They're another potential cut candidate. If you look at the rosters, you look at the salary cap situations, and then you look. The running back. And it's like, oh, year 3, year 4 running back, about to try and get paid.
Out.
You're gone, bro.
Bye.
You're gone, bro.
That's
Even
insane.
if you're on your second deal and you're on the second year of your second deal, they probably tailored that deal to get rid of you at this point.
We're at the point now, like, let's be realistic. Like a Bijan Robinson, who is about to be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft this year, he's got to know, and whoever his agent is, they got to know, hey, listen, whoever drafts you, enjoy 3 years because it's over after that. Because what running back is actually sticking around? Like guys like Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, seasoned dudes. Zeke was a cut, straight up cut. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Put it this way, Zeke is not on the does not belong on that.
No,
list
but I'm
Zeke
saying like star power.
Deal.
I'm saying star power, name power.
If we're talking about like guys that it almost like Zeke was the cautionary tale. It's like that happened and everyone was like never again because of the Zeke deal. And then you're seeing
you're seeing it with Saquon now. Buyer's remorse there possibly.
We're seeing Saquon didn't even get the tag. Wouldn't sign his
Won't
tag.
sign it.
But they're not paying him Zeke money, and it's 4 years later. You know what I mean? Like you would expect, like every other market, every other position, the market goes where?
Up. Straight to the moon.
What about the running backs?
It's in the gutter
It's going down. Like guys can't get what Zeke got 4 years ago, and everyone else is getting paid.
You know what the problem is? And this is not a problem. It's a testament to the depth of all teams. Like guys like their third running back are getting some burn, like literally carries, and they're showing like, hey, I could do what he's doing.
Oh, it's like run hard and hit the hole.
Right.
There's obviously things that guys bring to the table that are better, right? When it comes to breakaway speed or just vision or instincts, there is that element. And the guys that stand out, it shows. But none of those guys are carrying their teams to the Super Bowl. It's all, like, I don't care how good or how your vision is. Look, Barry Sanders is arguably the greatest back of all time. One playoff win?
I don't know if he has one.
They beat the Cowboys.
They did beat the Cowboys.
That's a fact. Yeah.
They did. I was trying to ignore that, but whatever.
But yeah, that's the point. It's like star running backs don't carry you to the promised land. They carry you to the
not
end zone
anymore.
No, they don't. They absolutely do not. Like, name one running back that was like, put the team on my back. You could say Emmitt Smith. Get off of my lawn with that one. They had a great team. The offensive line was stacked. The defense was stacked.
First of all, they only had one Hall of Fame offensive lineman.
I don't care.
The first 2 years, the offensive line was not what they were year 3 or 4.
And then what did he do?
He set the rushing record.
The first 2 years?
No. I'm just saying,
that's my point. As soon as they got... Now, forget about... I don't care. Okay, so you had one Hall... How many Hall of Famers are you supposed to have on the offensive line?
I don't know, but everybody's starting to talk about it like, oh, it's offensive line, dude.
One offensive line. How many Pro Bowls? How many Pro Bowls?
The Pro Bowls don't count.
How many All-Pro?
I don't know.
You have to make the Hall of Fame as a lineman. How many touchdowns are you going to score to make... You know what I mean? Like, it's not exactly the easiest thing.
A fat guy score.
It's still arguably the greatest offensive line unit, which is more important than having a one good or a two good offensive lineman. That was a dominant offensive line.
Great Wall of Dallas is what we like to call it.
And let's just be real about it. Emmitt Smith didn't carry them to the Super Bowl. He was a very integral part. Also, a very different time in the NFL. And
so you're saying no running backs ever actually put the team on their back?
I mean, I can't speak to anything prior to. Look at the MVP season. Sean Alexander. I think Eddie George may have an MVP. I think Adrian Peterson has an MVP.
Did Sean Alexander get to the Super Bowl?
Did he win it?
No. Steelers beat them.
And you could make the case that
Jerome Bettis. Talk about a team that puts a team on its back.
That was also a very good team. It wasn't like Sean Alexander carried them. Look at the offensive line on that team. You need
more.
You need more than just.
All you younger folks, do some research. It's a lot of fun back
I can
then.
blame Shanahan.
Ruined it.
That started this thing.
Yeah,
the eldest Shanahan.
8 running backs behind Clinton Portis.
No,
and
it was Terrell Davis. And then after Terrell Davis, it was just like, okay, zone blocking scheme, Olandis Gary, Mike Anderson. They just put different running back after different running back in there, and they all succeeded. And it just kind of...
So basically what he's trying to say is running backs are a dead position. They don't exist, and they shouldn't be paid. That'll be it. That'll do the show for today, as a matter of fact. Because, look, he's not wrong. I mean, it's the way... Everybody... You watch the Mojo market, you watch the other stock market, you watch any other market, trends, right? Ups and downs. Right now, the running backs are plummeting. And that's why if you look at the Mojo Market app itself, a lot of the guys, even the Mojo guy, the guys who do the numbers behind the scenes, like those guys are noticing this too, because how many times did we look at Miles Sanders last year? Like, how is this happening? Why is he not shot up? Because nobody likes the running backs. It's just a weird situation to be in. I don't know, man. It's tough. But you can follow along with all this stuff by following us on social media. That's TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Mojo, M-O-J-O. And, of course, join the Discord. It is the daily conversation happening about everything Mojo. And, of course, if you've watched us here, if you're a new viewer, welcome back or welcome to the show. And, of course, we're here Monday through Friday to talk all NBA and, obviously, the NFL as the draft comes closer. So we're going to get more into the draft as the week goes on. Obviously, the NBA playoffs are now full steam ahead. We'll see if, teams like the 76ers can go up 2-0. Can the Nets spoil one in Philly? I highly doubt it. But check back on the Mojo app, if you have it, on both Google Play and, of course, the Apple Store. Download them now. For Dave Sturchio, Chris Gueci, this has been another episode of the Mojo Market Report. See you back here tomorrow.